It's tough. I've been sitting here fiddling with the camera and stalling and really not knowing how to talk about this. I mean, it's something that anybody my age, or give or take, anybody who was alive back in 1980 remembers. It's one of those things like yesterday was Pearl Harbor Day, and I'm not old enough to remember that, contrary to what my daughters think. I was born in 1960, which means I don't remember Pearl Harbor. I mean, I know it's significant, obviously. You learn about it in history. There's nothing like living something. In December 8th, 1980, it was one of those days where, you know, millions of people remember where they were. I know I do. In fact, I dug up my journal from back then. And yes, it's a journal. It's not a diary. I'm a guy. Guys don't keep diaries. We keep journals. Maybe captain's logs. Maybe memoirs. We don't keep diaries. I don't know how long I ever want to talk about the fact that John Lennon was shot 30 years ago today. It's just weird to me to think that I've spent 10 more years on the planet than he did. Let me just read the first little bit from my journal, and I'll tell you why I probably don't want to go any more into it. And I want to talk about good stuff. This was December 9th, 1980. I wrote, "Yesterday, December 8th, 1980, John Lennon was shot and killed outside of his apartment building in New York. The grief I feel cannot be put on paper. I've thought about it every second of the day since I heard about it last night at about 8:30. It's exactly where I remembered. I know where I was. I know some friends dropped by, and there was a candlelight vigil a week later. I remember all that. I didn't really need the journal, but still just kind of seeing it there, especially the part where I said, the grief I feel cannot be put on paper. So I'm figuring, you know, if 30 years ago the grief I felt couldn't be put on paper, 30 years later it's not going to be put on video. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this more of a happy occasion. It's not a happy anniversary, but all the way home, I have a long commute, and all the way home I was listening to his songs, and that made me happy. The legacy he's left behind. I've been a Beatles fan since before I can remember. When the Beatles came to America, I was 4 years old. I don't remember watching them on the Ed Sullivan Show, but I know I watched it because my mom told me. And she said that I started carrying a comb around with me. And, you know, back then, you know, the style in 1964, the little kid didn't have a lot of hair, right? But I started carrying a comb around with me to try to make bangs like the Beatles. Guess not quite understanding the concept that I'd need hair to do that. And what's cool to me as somebody who lived through it is the effect that they continue to have. I like when I see kids, teenagers, college kids, when I see them wearing a Beatles t-shirt. I think that's really cool. It shouldn't really surprise me. I mean, Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, there's a lot of music that's been around for hundreds of years, so it shouldn't surprise me the Beatles are still around. You know, I really have nothing more to say. I just had to say something today, and being a Beatles fan for 46 years, I wasn't going to talk about something else. So there you go. I really don't even know how to close this. I really don't.